Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Welcome to Arizona Barrio Stories. Thank you for being a viewer. Thank you for being a part of this group. Welcome all. We also want to welcome David Paraluna with AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Salud, dinero y amor. This segment will give you some good nuggets. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Irma. Here we are again, ready to continue the conversation on pensions.
Pensions. You know, I'm at that stage of life where I don't think about those things anymore, but what I'm hearing nowadays, I don't hear the word pensions as much as I hear 401ks, I hear other things. Tell me, what has happened over the decades?
Yeah. You know, in the last show, we went over some history. We went back and saw how this matter of retirement, the concept of one day stop working, and then just do something else. It was built by design, you know, and I was impressed with the fact that the idea was for the older worker to look something forward, right? And then literally leave the workforce to leave room for the younger. It was kind of like those thoughts, concepts that prompted the industries, if you will, to create the Florida, the retirement centers, even here in Sun City, right? And there's so many places. So they literally built life after work, so to speak, which is great. I think it is very positive for us to look forward to a stage in life where we can do other things, but to have something, you know, to have the money that we will need to make ends meet. So what you bring up a great point, and let me bring in some terminology. In the 80s, 1980s, there used to, the defined contribution plans as opposed to defined benefit was introduced. 1980s. So what are defined contributions, right? They are your 401k plans. They also have some 403b, 457 plans, the 3 savings plans. All those fall in the category of defined contributions, not defined benefit. On a defined benefit, which is more your traditional pension, is very straightforward. They have a formula which we'll cover in just a bit, and you pretty much know how much you're going to get when you retire. That makes it easier for you to plan your retirement and see how much money you're going to need, how much more money you're going to need to save, etc. But beginning in the 1980s, that changed. And now companies felt that they wanted to not be responsible, corporations, companies, businesses, for the pension of their employees. So that's where the defined contributions plans come in. So now the responsibility is no longer the employer, it's no longer the corporation, it's on you. So let me just say a little something about the 401k concept, and then I will see how that affected the pensions, and then we'll go into define how usually private pensions work. But what happened is that on the private pension, on the defined benefit, right, the company puts in the money. Like I am fortunate to have a pension. I don't pay anything, and I'm going to end up with a check after I retire. That's awesome. But not a lot of people have that. So the 401k is now, it is your responsibility. They don't have to offer it. So you contribute on the 401k plan, and then there could or could not be, or may not be, a match by the company. Then that money is invested, but the company, like Pilot, you know how Pilot washes hands? It's basically the corporations, it does that. It's no longer the corporation or the company or the business responsibility to see to it that you get a defined benefit. You're not. It's whatever or however your plan, your investment does, the portfolio, right? The portfolio that you that your company selected, or the company was that your business, your job, employer contracted with, financial one, to do the investments. It's going to depend on that. And with the markets, they go up and down, so it's very, very different these days. Let me give you some statistics. The workers covered by a defined contribution, right? Defined contribution is as opposed to defined benefit. Pensions have been increasing over time. So from 1980 to 2008, it went from 8% to 31%. Now we're in 2024. That number is probably yes, it went up. So now you see more defined contributions, 401k type of offerings at jobs, very few. And some experts expect that most private sector plans will eventually end. Fortunately, I think we can say that the teachers and most of the private, they're still there, but I hear a lot about issues with the funding. I don't know if you have heard, do you hear at all issues with funding for the private plans?
I don't. I'm worried about, as you speak, I think about the youth of today who are getting their first job.
Yes.
I think, oh my gosh, if they don't have a pension, this is good nugget. These are good nuggets to be aware of.
Yeah. So in the previous show, we also talked about how at some point in the late 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a concern as to how to entice the older worker to leave the workforce, to leave room for the younger one. So developing this concept of retirement and then the pensions, then Social Security, 1935, that's what basically was a way to deal with this issue of unemployment too. So, let's move now to how they work, right? How they work, because I think it is important to understand that the pensions, when somebody's offered a pension, and I'm not talking about 401k, we'll talk about that on the next show or shows after that, because we also have to cover Social Security. Again, we're talking about income sources of income in retirement. And there's really very identified, very concrete. You're either going to have a Social Security, you're going to have a pension, you're going to have a 401k, savings, hopefully you bought real estate. So we all have to do an account of how much money is going to come our way before we decide to retire, right? So typically, on the way the pensions work, you will have a formula, right? You will have a formula, and this is exactly how my formula works. There is a multiplier, and it's in the neighborhood of 1.5, 1.65, 2 points, but they're not higher than that for the most part. And then sometimes they have a period where you have to work for a number of years to get vested. In my plan, I had to work 5 years before I could be vested. What if another company has 10 years? So you would have to work 10 years to get just vested, right, for pension. So that's a concept that people will hear when they deal with. Do you have a vesting period with the states?
Your age and your years of service had to equal 80.
80 points.
80 points. Mm-hmm. And so everybody would say, I'm almost to my 80 points. I need 2 more years.
Age and years of service, and can you get like early retirement even without those 80 points, maybe get a reduced benefit?
I'm not sure how they did it back then, because I'm not even sure they follow that anymore.
Okay.
but it
Yeah.
was always the 80 points. I know people would drag themselves to that point.
Yeah, and with the state, with government, I am not even going to even try to say anything because there's different rules, and all we would like to encourage folks is that they have those kind of pensions to talk to their HR. I assume they have an HR, and they have to go to HR and begin to learn how the pension works. I'm talking about the more traditional, which are rare these days, right? So you have a multiplier, and then you have the years to be vested. Like I said, in our plan we have 5 years. I remember when I was 5 years into working with ARP, it says, yes, now I'm vested, And then the multiplier, and then so what they do is they'll get the multiplier, and then they'll get an average, right? In my plan is an average of your last 5 years.
Yes.
An average of the last 5 years. They're going to use that amount to times the multiplier and then times the year of service, right? The years that you work for them. And that'll give you the yearly. Sometimes they use the word annuity because annuity has the word annual, which means year, right? So then if you want to know the monthly, then you divide it by 12. So that's basically how the pension is, the formula for the pension. But I want to also say before we end that there are some pensions who allow you to get a lump sum. I didn't know that. Mine doesn't. I can't get a lump sum. I have to get an annuity. And I want to say that to pay attention to taxes. Obviously, there's always taxes because that hasn't been taxed. But something very, very important. For those that are married, I am almost positive that most pension will give them options. Do you want to get 100% of your pension, you, the one that earned it, and if you died in 2 months, it's over? That would be one option, one decision to make. Or if you're married, right? Or do you want to take a smaller percentage, right? And then if you died, your spouse, your surviving spouse will get her percentage or his percentage after you die. Very important decision. I have even the terminology. It's called single life or joint survivor. Those are going to be two phrases that are going to be important. Sometimes the worker is older by many years, and then the spouse, so that's a consideration. Another thing, how healthy are you? What is the expectation? Data shows that males die before females. So all that has to be put into perspective before you make a decision whether you want your 100% thinking that you're going to outlive the spouse or less because you have a sense on data or whatever circumstances that you might die soon. So you want to leave your spouse, right, with the other percentage. Very important.
I invite people to look through their paperwork.
Yes.
Talk to people at HR, find out what is going to be best for you.
Definitely. Very, very important to know exactly your multiplier, the formula that they use, and the options to take your money. Either a lump sum, can you take a lower percentage so that you leave room for your spouse? Because can you imagine if you decide to get 100% and then you only live to 1 year after you start enjoying your pension? Once you die, it's gone. So big, tough decisions.
David, thank you. These are good things for people to think about. Thank you for joining us today. And as always, I'm hoping you bring us some good nuggets.
Well, we have Social Security, the 401ks, and the annuities, and the whole work. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Well, have you read through this fine print of your paperwork? If you're getting ready to retire, start asking questions, make notes. Talk to your people at HR if you need to. But David, I'm sure his contact information will be down on the screen. Contact him. Maybe he can help you with a couple of things that you might not be sure about. Thank you for viewing today. Salud, dinero y amor. We want the best for you. Thank you from Arizona Barrio Stories, Latino USA TV. We will see you soon.